Hi, everyone. Shawn Todd. Just wanted to get in touch, starting my live meeting here that is scheduled for today. Thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to chat. I know a lot have questions, and we're going through a really unprecedented time. So I don't want to pretend that I know exactly what's happening, but I certainly want to be able to spend some time and talk about what I do know and pass along some advice that might be helpful for you. And if you have questions, then I'd encourage you to certainly ask and reach out. But I want to start a little bit right now, maybe on the state of things currently. And I know that it doesn't look great, and it certainly feels stressful, I think, for us all, not knowing the uncertainty. It was really passed along fairly fast to us. And I don't think a lot of us were expecting at any point in time in our lives to experience something like this. Some of the things I do know is that we're incredibly resilient. And I think we've been doing a great job at reacting, whether it be my own office. I look at it as a team and think, geez, just a few weeks ago, we were doing work from our offices in a very normal way. And now I look at my team and I realize that we're all functioning normally, doing a fantastic job, but from our homes. So I'm excited to be able to say that I believe a lot of businesses are doing the same thing. I think they're reacting in a positive way, and we're doing a good way. So if there's anything that's good out of this, I think that we can see the elasticity of our economy and our ability to react. But what we are going through for sure is unprecedented. I think when I talk out and reach and speak to clients and ask them, I've been talking and calling and getting in touch as much as I possibly can and ask people how they're doing. I'd say for the most part, people being very good about the portfolios and potentially some of the risk that we've faced, some of the protraction that's going on. I think a lot of people are really just simply concerned about what the future holds for themselves personally. Maybe it's being, don't want to receive COVID and don't want to contract the virus. They're worried about what their employer is doing, and do they have to work? Will it affect my work conditions? They're certainly worried about cash flow. I think they're worried about, can they cover their bills? Do they have to worry about their mortgage? Do they have to worry about their house? Is the cash flow intact? And how long is this possibly going to continue to go on for? I think that's some of the biggest concerns when I'm talking to them. And certainly they're more forgiving and understanding of what's going on in the portfolio side of things. What I am seeing as well is large shutdown of services across the board, as you are too. I know everybody's seeing that and feeling it. I know there's been some layoffs and certainly some business alterations, whether it be local or on a larger scale, and that could be going on for some time. And I'm not certain that it's going to be weeks. I believe we're talking about months. And I'm certainly watching right now. I'm watching the reporting of the numbers, and I think we all have vested interest in that. And what I'm seeing right now is it continues to increase. I think it's delayed from what we're truly experiencing. I believe that those numbers are, we're probably a week away from seeing next week's numbers. Of course, we get very optimistic and look at the numbers and feel like, oh, great, the numbers in Ottawa are fantastic. But I believe in a week from now, we could be seeing a doubling of those numbers, only because the people that are carrying it don't know they have it yet. And I'm also concerned a little bit about the delay and the backlog of the COVID tests. I do see some reports about people saying that the test results take a couple of weeks for the numbers to come in. So I'm a little worried about the delaying of that, and worried about that if the numbers we're relying on that we're looking at may not in fact be the actual true numbers, only because there's people waiting 2 weeks to get these numbers back. So if we're delayed that long, then of course the numbers are going to be inaccurate to some degree. I also think there's some great, to me, there's some opportunities for us all to really sit back and review. So as we spend times in our homes and we spend times with our family, we can take a moment of pause and through conversations like this, decide, is there changes that have to be made? Is there some opportunities here for me to improve my current situation so that I don't feel as much stress and as much anxiety? And one of these things that I'd like to talk about this morning or this afternoon is going to be the deferral of mortgage payments. And I think that has come up a little bit in the past week or so since that's been introduced. And I know that some of the major banks right now are speaking about these opportunities and deferring your mortgage payments. And I've certainly heard lots of chatter about it, and lots of people certainly interested in this opportunity to have some flexibility in their own cash flow. I would definitely impress upon you that there is some risks that come with that. It's not certainly, if you're in a position where you can pay your mortgage payment, I wouldn't recommend deferring it. And I will be posting a mortgage deferral calculator that was gracefully shared with me by Jason Watt. He built it. Jason Watt from the Business Career College. I'm going to give a shout out there to you, Jason, who does fantastic work for financial advisors and financial planners. But he had built that, and he shared it, and I will be sharing it along with any of our followers on our LinkedIn and our Facebook pages. It allows you to input your own criteria, your own data, and have a look at your current mortgage situation, use your current interest rates, decide how long you would potentially defer the payment for, and have a look at what the actual cost to you would be. So bottom line, when I did some numbers last night on it, looking at it, it looks fantastic. I think it's a great opportunity for people who are in a position where they potentially may not be able to pay their mortgage. There is going to be people in that situation that are not in a great place. And this flexibility from CMHC and from the major banks, kudos to them for having that, to be graceful enough to allow people to defer. But for people who can pay, who have the ability and the opportunity to pay their bills, it's certainly the hidden cost here is going to be the cost of the interest payments from deferring the payment. So as an example, if we use $300,000 as an example, and we defer the payment 6 months at average rates, we're potentially looking at north of $20,000 of extra interest costs that have accumulated simply by the deferral. So I would encourage people to have a look at that, only because if you're doing something by virtue of thinking, well, this is a freebie, isn't this nice that they're doing this for me? There may be costs associated to you that you aren't aware of, or you should be aware of. So I will be posting that calculator on our LinkedIn and on our Facebook for you later. And please share, please have a look and see if that's at all of interest to you or of any benefit to your own financial planning. I also would like to be able to talk a little bit about financial planning steps and recommendations. I know there's lots of people right now that are wondering, how's this situation going to affect me? Is there any concerns? What should I do? The first thing I start off with is cash flow is king in your situation. So being at where we are now and what's going on, I certainly would recommend everyone to shore up their personal and business cash flows. If we looked at it, a year ago and talked to someone about financial planning, I would always recommend and take the time to recommend to have 2 or 3 months of cash sitting aside that you can access in the event you were injured or laid off or something changed, you had a hidden expense. I think it's important to be able to access cash and be able to pay bills that you weren't expecting. That being said, with what we're going through right now and the environment that we're in, I believe it would be imperative to ensure that you have enough set aside, or at least access, or a game plan or a strategy to be able to access 4 or 5 months worth of income. Seeing where we're at, I don't see the gas coming off anytime soon. I think it's important that we have the ability to maintain our homes, maintain our businesses. And I would press upon you that, again, cash flow is king. Please have a look at that and try to shore that up the best you can so that you're not in a bad spot. And sometimes we don't have the ability to have that. And I realize that some people won't have that, but I think if you don't, then at least you need to start creating a game plan of, if you're in a position where you need to access money, what is your next step? Because that's very important to survive right now. Obviously, families, business, very important. You need to keep that money coming into yourself and to be able to look after yourself. Bills is always important. I think that when we talk about our own cash flows, and if I was being honest, there's probably bills on my own that I could probably trim. There's going to be the online subscriptions, or there's going to be magazine subscriptions, or there's going to be something that you've put on your credit card that you probably haven't even taken stock of in a while. But of course, if our cash flow is shrinking and we're trying to be more cognitive of where the bills are going, then we want to make sure we take the time to look at what are you currently paying for, and do you need this, and would it be an advantage to you to trim that? That might be really, really important. The third thing inside the financial planning scope, which I think is very, very important, is just to make sure that we have the improper insurances looked after. I think when I do financial planning and we spend time looking at the different areas of planning, that often people overlook the risk management side. And now would be a good time to really be honest with yourself and have you looked at that lately at all? Is it shored up to the point where you're satisfied? And are your wills updated? Is it accurate? Are your beneficiaries updated, et cetera? So, let's just talk candidly here for a second. Do you have enough life insurance? If you were to die tomorrow by unknown reason, is there going to be enough to look after your bills, look after your family, look after your loved ones, pass along any gifting, which is obviously life insurance ends up being a very personal, it changes and varies. That's the personal element of life insurance. But at one point when you're not here, it's your last opportunity to say, well, I wanted my children to have something, or I wanted my spouse to have something, and have you ensured that that's looked after? And if it's not, then this would be a really good time for you to have a look at that, because a lot of insurers are being very cooperative in ensuring that they go out of their way to facilitate the insuring of people, make sure that people like ourselves can receive insurance, even though we're having a kind of a state of isolation. They're being very good about ensuring that they have a program that delivers the insurance to people who need it. And so if there was ever a time to start looking at these gaps, now to me would be a very, very good time to start doing that. So other questions you have to ask yourself are, do you have enough disability insurance? If I was to lose my job tomorrow, if I was disabled or I was sick, where does that income come from? And how am I going to pay my bills? Disability insurance provides income to people who are sick or injured. And sometimes you may or may not have enough, and you may or may not understand how your own plan works. So I would urge you to spend the time to look at your own plan and the design of your own plan to find out how long is this payment going to be received, and when would I receive it, and for how long would I receive it? And if you're not pleased with the parameters of that, then obviously you'd want to take the time to change that. And it also comes down to portfolio management. So the fourth item under financial planning I want to talk about this afternoon was the portfolio management side. Do we, a lot of people right now, if I'm asking them, the first thing they're going to say is, should I make any changes? That's really common to someone to say, hey, should I make changes to my account? And if you do make changes, if you want to make changes to your account, before that, I'd back it up and ask you, are you inside of 5 years before you need income? And if you're on the short side of that, then you really want to make sure you're in a very critical space where you want to make sure that you've done everything right, that your investment advisor and the team that's running the money has set your portfolio up in a way that you're confident that you can receive 2 to 3 years worth of income. And I'd say on the conservative side, I'd even, beg you to have at least 3 years of income set aside. That way we don't have to worry about market conditions. And we could be facing a somewhat protracted time period. So if we have an economy that suffers and drags for 2 years or 3 years, if you've been set up with 3 years worth of income, so to speak, set aside, risk-free, then I would urge you that you'd be in a better position and not having to worry about market fluctuations as much. If you haven't taken the time to do that, if that's not been done yet, then I certainly would urge that 2 or 3 years on the more conservative side, 3 years is set up to provide income in your portfolio, that you don't have to worry nearly as much about what's happening in the economy. Because if this does take some time, and I'm sure it will, then you want to, to me, sleep well at night and have just have a general knowledge of having less risk all around. If you're not on the short side of the 5 years, if you're outside of that 5-year time frame, then we really have to start believing, or we have to have some kind of faith in long-term capital markets and believe in what they do and believe what they stand for. And why do we invest in the first place? If we didn't believe in those long-term goals and we didn't believe in long-term growth in a variety of different areas, then we'd have to question, why do we even take our money and invest it? So let's spend some time thinking about that for a moment. Is that if we believe in a long-term time horizon, we believe in capital markets, then what I'd ask you to reflect, if you're outside that 5-year time period, reflect right now on, in 3 years' time or in 4 years' time, do you believe the economy is going to be in the same place as it is today or worse? Or do you believe in 3 years, outside of 3 years, we'll be in the same place or better? And as bad as it is, and as tough as it is right now, I'd have to be believing, or I would be apt to believe, that we're going to see an economy that is going to suffer or feel some pain for some period of time. But I believe that in 3 or 4 years, and I can't, of course, having not been here before, and I don't want to pretend that I know, but I certainly would have to be confident that outside of 3 or 4 years, our economy will have maintained or come back to where it is today, at least, even if it suffers a great deal of pain. Considering that we have a growing population that does extremely well, and as terrible of a time as this is, we've never before in our entire history had an ability to drive business the way that we do today. And if we look back, and I think there's been a lot of comparisons to this virus, to 1918, the Spanish flu. If we look back in time to previous periods, and I'll use Spanish flu as an example, a business like mine, we would have failed at this point to be able to continue contact with our clients. In 1918, I would have had to jump on my horse, ride home, put the horse in the barn, and then start working on my farm, because there would be no one else or no other way that I could continue business as usual. Just wasn't happening. Or at least now, businesses like mine can still survive, because we can still do business via the internet, and contact and technology has certainly allowed that. And I believe there's a lot of businesses in the same boat. And there's going to be some businesses, I feel, that are going to feel a significant amount of change right now, but we've never in time had that ability to be so flexible and so dynamic. So I really strongly believe that as much as we're going to feel a great deal of pain in the economy for some period, an unknown period, that when we do circle around that, there's still going to be people who are having children, still being people who want to go to school, still being businesses whose main goal is to grow and be profitable. We have to believe that that will occur. And it may look different than it is today, but I believe we're going to see capitalism at its best and the growth of capital markets. So if we're outside that 5-year time frame, then I would suggest that there is opportunity, and it's going to be opportunity in long-term investing. There will be no short-term calls here. I think right now there's too much speculation, and there's just significantly too much unknown. But I do believe for someone outside of 5 years who has long-term vision and has the ability and is interested in earning on money that they're going to put aside, there is opportunity there for sure. I know that there's a lot of information that we'll be talking about this afternoon, and I certainly don't expect you to have all the notes or what have you, but there is a way to get all this. So I want to pass along that we have feeds. So I've got a few here. I've written them down. My business partner and I, Corey Butler, and I run a podcast called The Mind and Money Show. It's being pushed out on iTunes and Spotify or any other place that you generally get your own podcast. So I would encourage you to, for one, if you have time and you feel like listening to a great podcast, I think it's pretty good. Look us up, Mind and Money Show. And we've had some really great feedback. We're really enjoying interviewing. We try to hit off different guests. The whole purpose of the show is to pick off different guests from different backgrounds on mindfulness areas, health related matters, and financial areas. So we've had a variety of different guests. I think they're all very good. And I would love for you to listen, have a listen, and please rate, because it certainly affects our ranking system and how people find us. So if you like it, like the show, rate it. If you don't like the show, let us know too, because we could always make some changes. And we'd love any feedback on guests you'd love to hear from, or people you'd recommend or refer us to. So that we'd love, the better the guests, the better the show. We also have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, the typical social media stuff. My daughters are encouraging me to look up TikTok, which I'll admittedly have checked out. It's very interesting. We haven't gone there yet, but we've got our Facebook feeds, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. So Acivda Financial, ECIVDA, is our financial planning boutique. And, please look us up. join us on any of those networks, and we're pumping out information all the time that I think would be very, very helpful for most people. So some of the other things I want to bring up this afternoon were government updates and assistance, and there's been so many changes and it's changing so fast. I'll go through the list as quickly as I can. It can't be detailed just because of time, and I realize that people aren't going to want to listen to the whole thing, but I do want to bring the knowledge to you and let you know what's out there so that you can prepare yourself or understand what's going on. So I've read a bit of a list here that I'll feed off. Parents, the Ontario government said on March 25th, it's going to offer a one-time payment to parents of children who are affected by school and daycare closures. And these payments will be $200 per child up to the age of 12, or $250 if that child is considered to have special needs. Seniors, low-income seniors will see increases in their usual payments from the province for up to 6 months. And they've also reduced the minimum RIF withdrawals, which is helpful for seniors who are drawing money off of their investments, RIFing it from a registered plan, because now that means if they've reduced the amount coming out, if you don't need to take it, you don't have to take it, which will preserve the amount of wealth longer, should that be of interest to someone. People who obviously are needing the money won't be doing that, but there will be people who are RIFing that most likely would say, you know what, I'd prefer not to take the money out right now, and that will cause less cost to them overall to the portfolio, because of course they deferred that withdrawal. The unemployed, so people who are experiencing work change right now, and I realize there's going to be a lot, and with all sensitivity, but I just want to get this out there so we can talk about it, but there's going to be usually an EI waiting period, and that's being waived. So I think it's fantastic that they've done that. That allows people to get benefits sooner than later, gets cash in people's hands, which is so important about getting us through right now. And the Canada Emergency Response Benefit is, of course, resulted out of what's going on. And the CERB is going to be available to the following workers, including self-employed and individuals, anyone who's lost their job or income due to COVID, anyone who's unable to work as a result of sickness and quarantine, anyone who needs to provide care for an individual who is sick or in quarantine, or who needs to provide care or supervision excuse me, to a child due to school or daycare closures. It's really significant. Hydro, provincial hydro has reduced their cost of peak pricing. That's going to help people on the cash flow side. Canada Child Benefit, eligible recipients will receive $300 more per child with their regular May CCB payment. So that's fantastic as well. Students are also being helped. I got an item here. Student loans are being temporarily deferred, I believe, on the interest side of it for a period of time, which is a great help to students. From a business owner perspective, there's also some opportunities here. They're providing wage subsidies for small businesses, up to a 75% wage subsidy for qualifying businesses for up to 3 months, retroactive to March 15th. And then, of course, they've come out with a few different other opportunities for business owners. The Canada Emergency Business Account, the loan guarantee for small and medium-sized enterprises, and the co-lending program for small and medium-sized enterprises. So this is all a great way. I believe what I've been most impressed about is some of the non-partisan thinking. And I'll be honest, I love politics, but at times it's very tiring to hear completely different opinions, so stuck on their own sides that they won't even consider a good thought from the other side, and that can be a headache at its best. But I have really appreciated at this time, at this moment when we've gone through such a stressful and terrible time, that they would be, I think the leadership has certainly risen, whether it's been on one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side you want to be fans of, but I've certainly been impressed in all regards of the leadership that have stepped up to work through a non-partisan type of agreement to come up with good decisions that will help us all. And I have been impressed at this point. So, very good on them. Good on some large companies. Some major companies are doing some great things in order to keep the economy going. Very, very impressed. And I can't say thanks enough to all those people. So that is my update for today. If anyone has any questions at all that they'd like to ask, now would be a great time. And I really appreciate, and like I said, all of our stuff will be available to you afterwards. I'll be posting this, and please follow us on socials if you have any questions. and my team will be at times producing this. We're going to be Corey Butler, Brian Adams, and myself. We'll also have an interactive live update tomorrow afternoon. So for all those that missed today, we're going to have one tomorrow. And please let me know. Everyone be safe. Please look after yourselves. And please contact me should you have any questions at all. Happy to help. And thanks a lot for listening. Take care.